Welcome everybody to this week's presentation on the topic of clock dial conversion. I was fortunate enough just a few weeks ago to be able to purchase an Italian quarter striking lantern clock made around 1720. It was complete and operable with hands original but no dial. Why just the dial, please? Here are two clocks, contemporary to the one that I've purchased, and you can see the type of dial that would have been fitted to my clock. We have an hour hand and a minute hand, but with a clock of this time it would have had an inner chapter ring for the hour hand and an outer chapter ring for the minute hand. So I had to find a dial, or make a dial, to match one of these. I started searching on all possible sources for a dial and eventually found this dial on eBay. It was exactly the right outside diameter. It was engraved brass. It had an outer minute ring with 5-minute markers. It had really nice Roman numerals. It had fleur-de-lis decorations at the half hours, but it had winding holes as it had come off a spring-driven movement, and had no inner hour chapter ring, but it was cheap. The first step was to plug all the unnecessary holes in the dial, and here you can see I've turned up small brass buttons and cleaned up the holes to put them in, then soldered them in to the dial. Filing back some buttons to remove the excess brass on front and back and around the inner ring. I then re-engraved the 4 and the 8 onto the new brass button surface. I then made an inner hour ring using brass of the same gauge mounted onto a faceplate, where I was able to also divide out the hours and engrave the inner ring before I parted it away from the center disc. The hour ring was then simply soldered into the dial, making sure that the markers lined up with the correct hour numerals. I then removed all the excess solder, then chemically cleaned the dial before mounting it to my wooden faceplate and beginning the graining and silvering process. Here is the chemically cleaned dial pinned onto the wooden faceplate. With the dial rotating at around 200 RPM, a fine sanding block is held gently but firmly against the rotating dial to remove all impurities on the surface so that it is active and ready for silvering. On the right, you can see the same dial after the application of the silvering compound. After demounting from the faceplate and thoroughly washed and dried, the dial was given a clear coat of wattle clear lacquer finish. This just stops the silver from beginning any oxidation process. I then filled in the numerals and the decorations with drawing ink, and immediately the beauty of the dial is visible. Just for appearance sake, I chemically aged the back of the dial as well. Finally, the entire dial was given another coat of wattle clear lacquer finish to seal in the ink, and then I fitted that dial to a backing plate which I'd already made to fit neatly into the clock front frame. That completed the clock to 100%, ready now to begin restoration of all of the mechanical components and the frame itself. Thanks for watching this presentation. I hope you found it informative, and perhaps there's something in there that you can utilise in the future when you're looking for a dial for a clock that you're working on. Bye for now.